The first light of the twin suns of Zyra Prime had barely kissed the jagged cliffs of the planet when Lyra HFY finished her morning drills. Her body moved with precision, every muscle trained to survive environments that would crush ordinary humans. The air here was thin, the gravity heavy, and the wildlife unforgiving, but she had thrived as she always did. Lyra wasn't just strong. She was a product of a planet that demanded perfection in body and mind. Today, though she was leaving her home for the first time in years, the Galactic Defense Academy awaited her. A place where cadets from countless planets trained to serve in the galaxy's defense forces. Her parents had warned her, "Not everyone will understand you. Some will fear you, and some will challenge you." Lyra had nodded, though she knew that what she had learned on Zyra Prime gave her an edge no one else could match. Her shuttle descended onto the sprawling Academy campus, a city of silver towers, vast training grounds, and holographic displays projecting missions from distant worlds. The cadets already on the ground glanced at her with curiosity, some whispering to each other. She was small in stature compared to the average cadet, but her eyes carried a quiet intensity that made others pause. Lyra walked with measured steps, her boots clicking against the polished metal floors, scanning everything. Nothing escaped her notice: the flicker of a nervous eye, the nervous twitch of a hand, the silent shift of someone preparing for mischief. Inside the academy, the first classroom session was underway. Cadets sat in neat rows, their holographic tablets glowing with strategy simulations and tactical scenarios. Lyra found a seat near the back, letting her senses adjust to the hum of energy and chatter. The instructor, a tall, sharp-eyed veteran named Commander Haven, glanced at the room. Today, he began, we focus on situational awareness. Your ability to read a room, read a threat, and react quickly can be the difference between life and death. Lyra smiled faintly. For her, this was a basic skill. On Zyra Prime, survival was a constant test of senses and instincts. But she understood that the Academy had its own rules, and showing restraint now could be as important as showing strength later. A group of cadets near the front were less patient. Led by a tall, broad-shouldered young man named Daxon Rel, they whispered among themselves, glancing at Lyra. "Look at her," Daxon muttered, "from that Deathworld junkyard. And they expect her to compete with us? She'll fold the first time someone pushes her." Another cadet snickered. Lyra caught their gaze, not with anger, but with an unflinching calm that made their laughter falter slightly. She didn't need to speak. Her presence alone communicated a quiet confidence. But the whispers didn't stop. Daxon leaned forward, lowering his voice. "Don't worry," he said to his friends. "We'll see how tough she really is." After class, Lyra's eyes narrowed just slightly. She had expected hostility. On Zyra Prime, it was a daily part of life. But she also knew that the Academy had rules, and breaking them without cause could be more dangerous than any fight. For now, observation was key. The class continued, focusing on coordination drills. Cadets were paired in holographic combat simulations, where timing and strategy mattered more than brute strength. Lyra's partner, a quiet cadet named Mina, struggled with the interface, sending her virtual attacks into walls, or missing timing entirely. Lyra didn't reprimand her. Instead, she subtly guided her movements, improving their simulation score without drawing attention. Meanwhile, Daxon and his group watched, their smirks slowly fading as they noticed Lyra's skill. She moved like a dancer in zero gravity, precise and fluid, her fingers barely touching controls before the system responded. She didn't need to shout or boast. Her results spoke for themselves. After the simulations, Commander Haven addressed the class again. "You see, cadets, raw strength matters less than awareness and adaptability." Lyra HFY from Zyra Prime demonstrated exceptional coordination. Let this be a lesson. Underestimate anyone at your peril. Muffled whispers and sideways glances followed the rest of the session. Some cadets began to respect her. Others began to seethe. Daxon's eyes burned with quiet frustration. Lyra met his gaze once more, unafraid, and he quickly looked away. As the class ended, the room emptied quickly. Lyra noticed a few cadets trailing behind her, not openly, but just enough to be noticed by someone watching. She slowed her pace, pretending to examine her datapad, her mind running calculations. If they intended to confront her, she would need to act decisively. In the corridor, the first signs of their plan became clear. A group of 4 cadets, led by Daxon, positioned themselves in a narrow passage, forcing her into a bottleneck. They smiled, confident. Lyra didn't move yet. Instead, she evaluated their positions, the angles of their bodies, their likely moves. "Hey, Deathworlder," Daxon called. "Think you can handle the real academy?" "I handle what I need to handle," Lyra replied calmly, her voice steady and even. "Why don't you try showing me instead of talking?" The corridor tensed. Cadets passing by slowed, sensing trouble but didn't intervene. Lyra's posture was relaxed, but her muscles were coiled, ready to respond in an instant. 12 seconds. That was all she needed. But for now, the moment held a quiet standoff. Lyra's presence alone began to unnerve her would-be aggressors. She wasn't angry. She didn't need to be. She had survived the deadliest predators of SciFi, endured storms that could strip flesh from bone, and walk through fire without fear. These cadets were a challenge, yes, but not a danger. One of the cadets sneered. "You're just a kid. I'll enjoy seeing you fall." Lyra tilted her head slightly, a small smile crossing her face. "You might want to check your timing," she said softly, almost a whisper. But it carried an unspoken warning. The bell rang for the next class. The cadets hesitated, unsure if they should proceed. Lyra used the distraction to step aside, her movements deliberate, controlled. She had no intention of striking first. She believed in observation, patience, and precision. But she would not be caught unprepared. As she walked down the corridor, her mind ran through the possibilities of their attack. Each step, each movement was calculated. Lyra's training on SciFi had taught her to expect the unexpected, to anticipate danger before it arrived. She noted their posture, the shift of weight in their boots, twitch of their hands near their belts. The tension in the hallway was palpable. Other cadets slowed, giving the scene a wide berth. Lyra's calm presence contrasted sharply with the nervous energy of Daxon's group. It was a lesson in restraint and observation, a demonstration that true strength was not always about striking first, but striking perfectly when the moment arrived. By the time she reached the Academy's training grounds for her next scheduled session, Lyra had already predicted their moves, identified the weak points in their stance, and mentally rehearsed her responses. She was ready. And so part 1 ends with her standing tall, eyes steady. A quiet storm of skill and precision waiting to be unleashed, but not yet. The stage is set for the encounter that will test the limits of her training. Patience, and humanity's resilience in the face of underestimation. The corridor was emptying fast. The echoes of boots against polished metal faded as other cadets hurried to their next classes. Only Daxon and his 4 friends remained, blocking the narrow passage. Their faces were a mix of impatience and overconfidence. They believed they could intimidate Lyra HFY, the Deathworlder Cadet. With sheer size and numbers, Lyra paused, her body relaxed but alert. Her eyes swept over the group, noting every detail, the slight shift in weight on their left feet. The tightening of fists, the subtle way their shoulders tensed. In 12 seconds, she could neutralize the situation. She didn't need to act yet. Observation was her greatest weapon. "Ready?" Daxon asked, smirking, as if that smirk alone could make her falter. "I've been ready," Lyra replied evenly, her voice calm, steady, and strangely reassuring. Like the eye of a storm, then the first cadet lunged. It was a clumsy attempt, one that underestimated her speed and precision. Lyra sidestepped smoothly, her movements fluid and controlled. She didn't push or strike with unnecessary force. Instead, she used the cadet's own momentum to guide him gently but firmly into a soft landing on the floor. The move was precise. Designed to incapacitate without causing harm, the second cadet jumped immediately. Thinking 2 against 1 could overwhelm her, Lyra pivoted, catching his arm in a subtle grip. With a smooth motion, she guided him off balance. He stumbled and fell, sliding along the corridor until he came to a stop with no injury. The 3rd and 4th cadets, hesitated for just a fraction of a second. That was enough. Lyra's body moved with uncanny timing. She ducked under the swing of an arm, twisted past an attempted block, and used a combination of grips and momentum to gently but decisively bring both cadets down. All four were now on the ground, groaning softly, more embarrassed than hurt. Daxon froze. His overconfidence faltered as he watched Lyra stand, calm, composed, and completely unshaken. 12 seconds had passed, and the entire ambush had dissolved into chaos for the aggressors. Yet Lyra had barely broken a sweat. Lyra's breathing remained even. She scanned each cadet on the floor. None were hurt, just temporarily incapacitated. That was enough to make her point. Strength was not only in power, but in control. She didn't need to show aggression to establish dominance. The corridor was silent except for the soft groans of the cadets on the ground. Other cadets, who had slowed in passing, stared in astonishment. Whispers began to ripple down the hall. Lyra's reputation was about to grow faster than anyone could anticipate. Daxon finally spoke, his voice tight with frustration. You're just lucky." Lyra shook her head slightly. "This isn't luck," she said. "It's training, observation, and knowing yourself." Her gaze was steady, and for a moment, Daxon felt a flicker of fear or perhaps respect inside himself. A hovering Academy medic droid rolled into the corridor, its sensors scanning the downed cadets. "Minor disorientation detected," it reported. "Recommend temporary recovery in the infirmary." One by one, the cadets were helped to their feet and escorted to the infirmary. Lyra watched silently, her expression calm, almost serene. She could have escalated the situation if she wanted to, but restraint was part of her strength. As the corridor emptied again, Lyra's mind ran through the encounter. She had anticipated the ambush, reacted instantly, and used only what was necessary. 12 seconds. That was all it had taken. Later, in the Academy's common hall, the cadets who had witnessed the incident were still whispering. "Did you see that?" one asked. 4 cadets down in seconds. "And she didn't even break a sweat." Another shook his head. "I don't know who she is, but I'm not messing with her. Not now, not ever." Even those who had not seen the encounter heard about it quickly. Lyra's calm, precise handling of the ambush became a topic of fascination. Some cadets admired her, others feared her. But one thing was clear: she had earned attention and respect, simply by being herself and using her skills responsibly. In her dorm room, Lyra unpacked her few belongings. The small space was neat, organized, reflecting her disciplined mind. She didn't need many things. What she needed most was focus, observation, and preparation. She glanced at the Academy timetable. Tomorrow, training simulations would test her in ways different from the ambush. And she was ready. Her thoughts drifted briefly to her homeworld. SciFi was harsh, but it had prepared her for moments like this. The Academy, by contrast, relied on rules, technology, and training. Both required skill, but in different ways. Lyra smiled faintly. She would adapt. She always did. Meanwhile, in the infirmary, Daxon and his friends were lying on recovery beds, nursing bruised egos more than anything else. "I can't believe it," muttered one of the cadets. "She didn't even hit us hard." Daxon sat up, glaring at the ceiling. She's not normal. "None of us trained for that," another groaned. "We underestimated her. Big mistake." Daxon's frustration grew. Pride hurt more than his body. He had been sure that Lyra was just another inexperienced cadet. Now he had to admit reluctantly that she was not just skilled. She was extraordinary. Back in the hallway, Lyra's footsteps echoed softly as she returned to her training schedule. Other cadets gave her a wide berth, sensing her presence. She didn't seek attention. She didn't need to. Her confidence was quiet, grounded in competence and discipline. Commander Haven later reviewed the incident. "Kale's handling of the ambush demonstrates not only physical skill, but strategic thinking and control under pressure," he told the Cadet Council. "This is an example of how a cadet can use intelligence, observation, and precision to overcome greater numbers." Take note. The lesson was clear. Strength without control was nothing. Intelligence without courage was nothing. Lyra embodied both. That evening, Lyra reflected on the events. 12 seconds had changed perceptions, but she remained focused on her path. She wasn't here to prove herself through fights or demonstrations. She was here to learn, to grow, and to excel. Yet if anyone tried to test her again, they would see the same precision, discipline, and calm decisiveness that had saved her from harm today. Even as the academy buzzed with rumors, Lyra prepared for the next challenge. Tomorrow would bring simulations that tested strategy, teamwork, and survival skills. Her mind already mapped out possible outcomes, threats, and contingencies. She trained not for glory, but for mastery. For her, this was normal. The world had tested her body, her mind, and her courage on SciFi every day. The academy, though vast and sophisticated, was simply another environment to master, and in 12 seconds, anyone who underestimated her would learn the same lesson she had learned long ago. Humans, when pushed and prepared, could overcome challenges that seemed impossible. With that thought, Lyra set her sights on the academy's training grounds for the following day. Her body rested, but her mind remained sharp. She would continue to observe, adapt, and excel. The ambush was over. But her journey was only beginning. By morning, the story of Lyra Kale's 12-second ambush response had spread throughout the Galactic Defense Academy. Cadets whispered in hallways, gathered in corners, and speculated about the Deathworlder Cadet who had effortlessly incapacitated for aggressors without harm. The news traveled faster than any official announcement. It's carried by excitement, awe, and a little fear. Lyra herself moved through the academy with her usual calm. She did not boast, did not react to the stares or murmurs. Instead, she focused on her training schedule, on the assignments, and on observing the academy in detail. Every step, every glance, every interaction was an opportunity to learn. Some cadets approached her openly, curiosity in their eyes, Kale. A tall cadet named Rin said nervously, "They say you handled the ambush in seconds. Is it true?" Lyra gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. "It happened," she replied. "I was prepared, that's all." Rin blinked. "Prepared? Like, really prepared? On purpose?" "Yes," Lyra said simply, and then turned back to her training log. Her calm demeanor fascinated Rin and several others who lingered nearby. Lyra's reputation grew, not through boasting, but because people could see her competence firsthand. However, not everyone admired her. Daxon and a few of his friends felt something more complicated. Pride, frustration, and embarrassment simmered beneath the surface. They had expected to intimidate her with numbers and bravado, only to discover she was unmatched in skill and awareness in the cafeteria. Cadets clustered in groups, whispering and glancing toward Lyra. Some admired her. Some felt cautious, and some plotted how to regain their wounded pride. Lyra sat alone at a table, eating quietly. Her focus was on what mattered: learning, adapting, and surviving. She did not care about whispers or petty rivalries. Her mind was already planning for tomorrow's training simulations. Even the instructors noticed. Commander Haven, speaking to a group of faculty, noted Lyra's composure. "She is more than capable," he said. "Not only skilled in physical response, but she demonstrates patience, observation, and restraint. Qualities we value above raw strength." As the day progressed, the whispers intensified. Holodisplays in common areas replayed training sessions and simulations, often highlighting cadets' performances. Clips of Lyra moving with precision and calm efficiency during the ambush had already been shared and replayed among cadets. Though she did not seek attention, the Academy's culture ensured her reputation spread. Some cadets approached her with questions, others with subtle challenges. One group, clearly seeking to test her, attempted to provoke a reaction during a tactical exercise. Lyra simply ignored them. She focused on the task, using teamwork, observation, and quick thinking to navigate the simulation's obstacles. Daxon watched from a distance, frustrated. How does she remain so calm? How does she make everything look easy? He muttered. His friends whispered similar concerns. They could not deny her skill, but their wounded pride made it difficult to admit it openly. Lyra's approach to the academy was different from most cadets. She did not need to dominate or display superiority. Her strength came from self-confidence, discipline, and experience in extreme environments. Even in this new world of technology, rules, and social hierarchies, she adapted quickly. Later, she attended a strategy briefing for the upcoming survival simulations. The Academy's instructors explained that cadets would be tested in alien environments, facing unpredictable challenges designed to push them to their limits. Lyra listened intently, mentally mapping possible strategies, potential threats, and escape routes. She noted the terrain's features, the environmental hazards, and the likely movements of rival cadets. The briefings ended, and cadets were released for the evening. Hallways buzzed with speculation. Many wanted to see Lyra in action again, though some feared they might end up in the infirmary like Daxon's friends. The stories of 12 Seconds had already taken on a legendary quality among cadets. Daxon, however, refused to accept defeat. He approached her cautiously, trying to disguise curiosity as casual conversation. Kale, he said, you're different from anyone I've seen here? How do you do it? How do you stay so calm? Lyra regarded him calmly. I focus on observation. I anticipate actions, and I stay ready. That is all. Daxon frowned. That's not normal, perhaps, Lyra said. But it works. The encounter ended there. Daxon's pride was still bruised, but a seed of respect had been planted. Lyra had not humiliated him. She had simply demonstrated skill, discipline, and intelligence qualities even her rivals could not ignore. In the dormitory, Lyra reflected on the day. 12 Seconds had changed perceptions, yes, but she was not seeking fame. She measured success by learning and growth, not by admiration or fear. On SciFi, survival had been her teacher. Here, the Academy would continue to test her in new ways. Through strategy, teamwork, and adaptability, her thoughts were interrupted by a commotion in the hallway. A small crowd had gathered around two cadets debating the ambush incident. One cadet insisted that Lyra's actions were extraordinary. The other argued it was just luck. Lyra walked past silently, her calm presence causing the argument to fade as cadets noticed her and backed away. By night, her reputation had solidified. Cadets who had previously mocked or doubted her now approached with tentative curiosity, seeking guidance or simply to understand her methods. Others remained wary, unsure if they could ever match her skill. Even Daxon, lying on his bunk, could not stop thinking about her. Pride warred with respect in his mind. He had underestimated her, and the lesson stung. But deep down, he recognized that Lyra was not simply strong, she was intelligent, disciplined, and capable of thinking several steps ahead of everyone else. Meanwhile, Lyra focused on preparation. She reviewed her tactical logs, studied the Academy's manuals, and ran simulations in her mind. Tomorrow would bring survival exercises designed to test every cadet's abilities, and she intended to excel, not for recognition, but to sharpen her skills. The story of the ambush continued to ripple through the Academy. Cadets speculated on her origin, her training, and her capabilities. Some wondered what other skills she possessed, imagining challenges far greater than a simple corridor confrontation. Lyra's reputation, built in just 12 seconds, had grown into a symbol of human adaptability, resilience, and mastery of skill under pressure. Despite the whispers, Lyra remained focused, disciplined, and composed. She understood that admiration could be fleeting, but skill and preparedness were lasting. She had faced far greater dangers on SciFi than anything the Academy could throw at her. Here she was learning new ways to apply those skills, integrating them with strategy, teamwork, and advanced technology. As she lay in her bunk, preparing for rest, Lyra reflected on the day's lessons. Observation, patience, control, and adaptability were not just tactics, they were philosophy. They were what allowed her to thrive in any environment, no matter how challenging. The ambush had been a small test, yet it demonstrated something larger. Humans could excel beyond expectations, especially when discipline and intelligence guided their strength. Tomorrow, simulations would push her further. She would face complex terrain, alien environments, and cadets trained in ways different from her own experiences. Yet she was ready. 12 seconds had been enough to prove one point. But the Academy was about to show her 1,000 more opportunities to demonstrate her abilities, intelligence, and humanity's unique resilience. And as the twin moons of the Academy's planet rose over the horizon, Lyra HFY closed her eyes, not in fear or worry, but with confidence, calm, and anticipation for the challenges ahead. Her story was no longer just about survival, it was about mastery, growth, and showing that humanity, when tested, could rise to incredible heights. The next morning, the Academy's alarm system sounded, signaling the start of an unannounced exercise. Cadets gathered quickly in the central briefing hall, their murmurs mixing with the hum of energy from holographic projectors. Lyra HFY arrived, calm as always, her posture straight, her eyes scanning the room. Commander Haven stood at the front, his face serious, but with a glint of excitement. "Cadets, today's exercise is a simulated survival mission on planet Varelia. The environment is designed to test your adaptability, teamwork, and problem-solving skills under extreme conditions. All standard combat rules apply. This will not be easy." The holographic map of Varelia displayed strange terrain, jagged cliffs, dense fog, toxic gas pockets, and areas of unpredictable gravity. Cadets murmured nervously. Many had trained in simulators, but few had encountered such unpredictability. "You will be grouped into teams of 5, having continued. "Teamwork is essential. Every decision matters. Resources are limited, and you must adapt to survive and complete your objectives. Good luck." Lyra's assigned team was a mix of cadets. Rin, who admired her skills. Mira, a quiet strategist. Daxon, still nursing his wounded pride. And Kale, a fast but impulsive cadet. Their task was to navigate the treacherous terrain, locate energy nodes, return to the extraction point. Daxon scowled as he approached her. "You'll slow us down if you stick to your Deathworlder ways," he muttered under his breath. Lyra glanced at him calmly. "Stick with the team and pay attention. You might learn something." Her words were not a threat, they were a promise. The exercise began with cadets, deployed via drop pods onto the simulated planet's surface. Lyra's team landed near a rocky plateau. The moment their boots touched the ground, the environment challenged them. Strong winds, shifting gravity, and low visibility in the dense fog. Kale immediately dashed forward, ignoring team strategy. "I can scout ahead," he shouted. Lyra shook her head. "No. We move together. One mistake, and someone could be lost." She led the group along a safer path, using her senses to detect unstable ground and hidden obstacles. Her experience on SciFi-Prime gave her an edge. She noticed details others overlooked: a faint shift in the fog, subtle vibration in the rock, a scent indicating danger. Daxon gritted his teeth but followed. For the first time, he realized that her calm, careful approach was saving them from unseen hazards. As they progressed, the first challenge appeared: a narrow cliff pathway with crumbling edges. One wrong step could send a cadet sliding into a simulated ravine. Lyra stepped forward, analyzing the terrain. "Rin, stay close. Mira, help Kale with stability. Daxon, follow my lead. Watch the edges and move carefully." The team followed her instructions. Lyra's movements were precise. She tested each foothold, guided cadets when necessary, and never rushed. Her experience surviving extreme conditions gave her a natural leadership presence. Once across the cliff, they encountered another obstacle: a dense field of toxic gas pockets. Sensors indicated exposure would reduce their stamina if they moved too quickly. Panic set in among some cadets, but Lyra stayed calm. "Slow and steady," she instructed. "We move in sequence. Follow my steps exactly." Using makeshift masks and careful coordination, the team navigated the field. No one faltered. Daxon, who had once underestimated her, Now realized her skill was more than physical, it was tactical intelligence. Hours passed, and the team reached the first energy node. It was guarded by a simulated security system, automated drones designed to test reaction time and problem solving. Lyra observed quickly. The drones moved predictably, but any wrong step would trigger alarms. Listen carefully, Lyra said. Kale and Daxon distract the drones without triggering them. Rin and Mira assist me in unlocking the node's interface. Timing is critical. The plan worked seamlessly. Lyra guided the team's coordination, using minimal movement for maximum effect. Within minutes, the node was secured and their progress updated in the simulation system. Cadets nearby looked in awe. Even Daxon felt a mix of respect and frustration at how effortlessly she adapted. The next challenge was a gravitational anomaly zone, where gravity shifted unpredictably, throwing cadets off balance. Here, Lyra's training on GalacticPrime proved invaluable. She adjusted her stance continuously, predicting shifts and helping others maintain balance. Lean into the pull. Don't fight it, she instructed. Move with it, not against it. Following her lead, the team advanced. Mira whispered, "I've never seen anyone move like that. She's amazing." Lyra didn't respond. She focused on the mission. Her goal was simple: complete the exercise efficiently and safely, ensuring her team learned from her approach as they approached the final stretch. The simulation introduced a complex puzzle of energy conduits. The cadets had to realign conduits to restore power to the extraction point. Panic threatened to set in among her teammates. But Lyra analyzed the system quickly. "Observe the pattern," she instructed. "Each conduit has a signal. We match them one at a time. No rushing." Under her guidance, the team worked efficiently. Cadets moved in harmony, following her lead, combining logic with physical coordination. Daxon finally admitted to himself that her leadership was unparalleled. With the puzzle solved, the extraction point activated. A hovercraft arrived to take them back to the academy. Lyra and her team had completed the mission not only successfully, but with record efficiency, earning high praise from instructors monitoring the simulation. Back at the academy, cadets gathered to discuss the exercise. Whispers of Lyra's skill grew louder. Even those who had doubted her began to see the value of intelligence, preparation, and calm leadership over raw strength or bravado. Commander Haven addressed the returning cadets. Today's exercise demonstrated that success is not determined by size or strength alone. Observation, adaptability, teamwork, and precision matter just as much, if not more. Cadet Kale exemplified this principle. Let her example guide you all. Daxon, walking beside her quietly, finally spoke. You weren't just lucky, Kale. You planned everything, controlled every move. I underestimated you." Lyra glanced at him calmly. "You were focused on proving yourself. That made you predictable? Focus on learning, not showing off, and you'll improve faster than you think." He looked at her thoughtfully, a mixture of grudging respect and newfound determination in his eyes. That evening, Lyra returned to her dormitory. She didn't celebrate. Instead, she reviewed the day's events, analyzing every decision, every movement, and every reaction. Her approach was methodical, her mind always seeking improvement, even as other cadets discussed the exercise. Praising her or attempting to dissect her methods, Lyra remained focused on the next challenge. She understood that each test, each mission, was a step in growth, not only for herself, but for humanity. The Academy's exercises were artificial, but the skills, discipline, and leadership she demonstrated were very real as she prepared for rest. She considered the lesson of the day. True strength was not only in physical skill, but in the ability to adapt, lead, and make precise decisions under pressure. Humanity, she realized, thrived in these moments. Adaptable, intelligent, and resilient. Humans could overcome challenges that seemed impossible, even to those more physically imposing outside. The Academy's training grounds shimmered under the twin suns, reflecting the promise of future challenges. Lyra HFY closed her eyes, ready to face whatever came next, not for glory, not for recognition, but because she thrived on mastering the impossible. The day had tested her body, mind, and leadership. The Academy had begun to recognize her as more than just a cadet from a harsh death world. She was a symbol of what humans could achieve when discipline, intelligence, and courage came together, and in her calm, thoughtful way, Lyra knew this was only the beginning. Tomorrow would bring new obstacles, new challenges, and new opportunities to prove that humanity's greatest strength lay in its ability to adapt, endure, and excel in the most extreme conditions. The Academy's sun had barely risen over the horizon when cadets gathered in the central plaza. Excitement and anticipation filled the air. Today was not a simulation, nor a scheduled exercise. It was the evaluation and recognition ceremony for the recent survival missions, including the complex exercise on planet Varelia that had tested every cadet's skills to their limits. Lyra HFY walked calmly through the crowd, her steps measured, her expression composed. She had not sought attention for her accomplishments, but the events of the past days had earned her quiet respect among her peers. The whispers in the hallways had grown into stories, and stories had transformed into admiration. Cadets who had once doubted her now observed her carefully. Learning from her presence alone, Commander Havens stood on the raised platform, the holographic display behind him shimmering with images of the Varelia mission. "Cadets," he began, his voice carrying clearly across the plaza, "the survival missions tested your courage, your intelligence, and your ability to work as a team. Some of you excelled, some of you struggled, and some of you demonstrated qualities that go beyond skill alone." He gestured toward Lyra. The cadet's eyes naturally followed the motion. Cadet Lyra HFY has shown exceptional ability in observation, precision, leadership, and calm decision-making under pressure. Her performance demonstrates the best of what humanity can achieve when courage and intelligence are combined. Let this be an example to all cadets. A ripple of applause spread through the plaza. Some clapped enthusiastically, some cautiously, but the respect was unanimous. Even Daxon, standing with his friends, clapped, though his expression was a mixture of admiration and reluctant humility. After the ceremony, cadets approached her with curiosity and newfound respect. Rin smiled warmly. "HFY, your leadership today. It saved us from mistakes we didn't even know we were making." "You followed the plan," Lyra said modestly. "I just guided the team. Focus, observation, and communication make all the difference." Mira nodded. "I learned more from watching you today than in weeks of theory lessons." "You make everything look simple." Daxon, however, hesitated. He had approached her many times before, but now there was no bravado, only sincerity. "HFY, I misjudged you. I didn't understand what it takes to survive. To lead today I do." Lyra glanced at him calmly. "Everyone has to learn in their own way. What matters is that you learn." Even as the cadets dispersed to their next duties, the impact of her actions remained. Stories of her 12-second ambush response and her leadership in the survival exercise were repeated over and over. Cadets from other teams discussed her methods, analyzing her approach to observation, strategy, and teamwork. In the quiet of her dormitory, Lyra reflected on the events of the week. She had faced hostility, tested her skills under pressure, guided a team through challenges that required both intelligence and adaptability. The Academy was beginning to recognize that strength alone was not enough discipline. Observation and strategy were equally important. Her thoughts drifted briefly to her homeworld, Zero Prime, where survival had been a daily test of endurance, intelligence, and courage. Those lessons had prepared her for every challenge at the Academy. The difference here was opportunity and environment where skill could be refined, strategy could be tested, and leadership could be developed. The following days brought further simulations and exercises. Lyra continued to perform with precision, often quietly guiding her peers, teaching without words, leading by example. The cadets who had once doubted her began to emulate her approach: careful observation, calm problem-solving, and teamwork. Even Daxon, who had once sought to intimidate her, began to respect her methods and apply her lessons to his own training. Outside of formal exercises, Lyra noticed subtle changes in the academy. Cadets approached challenges differently, discussing strategy, analyzing situations, and collaborating more effectively. Her actions had not only earned her respect, but it also influenced the culture of learning within the academy. One afternoon, Lyra was called to the command office. Commander Haven greeted her with a firm handshake. "Cadet Kale," he said, "your performance over the past week has been exemplary. You have demonstrated not only skill, but leadership, discipline, and the ability to elevate those around you. You embody the qualities we hope to see in every human representative at the Academy." "Thank you, sir," Lyra replied, her tone humble. "I'm only doing what I can to improve and help others." Haven nodded. "Exactly. And that is why we recognize you today, not for a single moment, but for the example you have set." Later, as Lyra returned to her dorm, she noticed Daxon waiting outside. He straightened when he saw her approaching. "I wanted to say, thanks," he said simply, "for teaching me, and for showing that strength isn't just about power." "You're welcome," Lyra said calmly. "Learning is what counts. Apply it well." Quiet respect passed between them. Competition remained as it should, but now it was tempered by understanding and shared goals. Lyra had proven that humans could excel through intelligence, observation, and courage, even in situations where others relied only on strength or numbers. Over the next few weeks, Lyra continued her training, not seeking attention, but maintaining her focus. She worked on survival techniques, strategy simulations, and teamwork exercises. Her peers increasingly sought her guidance, not for admiration, but to learn how to think critically, adapt quickly, and remain calm under pressure. The Academy's instructors also took note. Lyra was often called to assist in training workshops, demonstrating techniques for observation, coordination, and tactical decision-making. She did not lecture or boast. Her leadership was quiet, practical, and effective. Cadets learned by following her example in the dormitory. As she reviewed the week's training logs, Lyra reflected on her journey. She had arrived as a cadet from a harsh death world, underestimated by many. In 12 seconds, she had established her capabilities. Through careful observation, intelligence, and leadership, she had guided her team through challenges that tested courage, skill, and adaptability. And through it all, she had remained calm, disciplined, and true to herself. Her story had spread across the Academy, inspiring other cadets to approach challenges differently, to value intelligence, strategy, and teamwork as much as physical skill. Humanity's unique ability to adapt, innovate, and thrive in unexpected situations had been demonstrated not through flashy displays, but through careful mastery of skill, mind, and leadership. One evening, as Lyra gazed out at the Academy's training grounds, bathed in the glow of the twin moons, she felt a quiet sense of accomplishment. She knew her journey was only beginning. The Academy would continue to challenge her. Missions, simulations, and unforeseen obstacles awaited. But she also knew something else. Humans could rise to any occasion, no matter the odds. And in that knowledge, Lyra found her strength not just in her body, her reflexes, or her combat training, but in her mind, her discipline, and her ability to inspire others to reach higher. The cadets who once underestimated her had learned a valuable lesson. Respect was earned not by threats or intimidation, but through competence, restraint, and leadership. And Lyra Kale, the Deathworlder Cadet, shown them all exactly what that meant. As she closed her eyes for the night, Lyra Kale smiled faintly. The Academy was a place of learning, of challenges, and of growth. And she was ready not just to survive, but to excel, to lead, and to show that humanity's greatest strength lay in its courage, adaptability, and intelligence. The journey ahead was long, and the challenges would only grow. But Lyra Kale had proven one undeniable truth. Humans, when disciplined, aware, and determined, could overcome any obstacle even in the harshest conditions and emerge stronger than ever. And so, the Deathworlder Cadet stood as an example, not of superiority, but of resilience, intelligence, and the extraordinary potential of humanity itself. The Academy had gained more than a skilled cadet, had witnessed the rise of a leader who would inspire generations to come.